Well, joining me live now is former Ambassador Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley. She's former president of the Middle East Policy Council and former director of the Arabian Peninsula for the National Security Council. Ambassador, thank you for being with us this evening. So we don't have much detail on Iran's response, but clearly they're not giving in. Do you think this is evidence that they currently have the upper hand?
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. Well, it certainly indicates that they do not intend to submit to President Trump's demands. What we've had since the beginning of this conflict, of course, is a great deal of hyperbole from President Trump, threats, demands, and unfortunately, successful negotiations don't work that way. Without the hyperbole, there might be a chance for continued negotiations, but a deal means win-win for both parties. And the United States is held to its demands, which is complete submission by Iran, and Iran is held to its demands, which is we will not. And so far, the Iranians are holding firm, and there's no reason to doubt that they will continue to do so.
Yeah, Trump obviously wants a deal. He loves a deal, and he's expecting it to come quickly, in days, really. But we know the JCPOA under the Obama administration, that took 2 years. So is it at all realistic to really expect anything imminently?
Well, you're right about that 2 year, and it's something that the Trump negotiators, his friend Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law, seem not to understand when these timelines have been set by the president. No one has said clearly, Mr. President, that cannot happen. So a framework could be in place, and there's still that opportunity where they set up a frame, certainly get the Strait open, but postpone those larger issues to go into the technical ramifications. How is it going to be verified, what the checks are, etc. But a complete deal in 30 days or less, no, that was never going to happen.
And we know that President Trump has a trip to China coming up this week. China is helping the Iranians. How much pressure do you think he can realistically apply on that trip?
Well, it's not necessarily President Trump applying the pressure, but perhaps the Chinese applying pressure as well. It was clear he wanted to have this wrapped up before his trip. That is not going to happen. The Chinese have expressed support for Iran. They're one of the few countries around the world that continue to acknowledge that the United States and Israel attacked Iran. They were the starters of this. When the Secretary of State says only stupid countries don't fire back when they're attacked, that goes for Iran as well as the United States and Israel. So there is pressure there because there are other things that the president wants to negotiate with China, but this, of course, is going to remain on the front burner. And the Iranians are not providing a fig leaf for the president to declare victory. They're not providing any wiggle room for him to wrap this up without a clear failure of his administration and the United States and Israel to impose our will on the Iranians.
And you mentioned Israel there. Prime Minister Netanyahu says that there is still work to be done. Iran has not given up on its nuclear program. How strong do you think his influence is on the US now that we're over 2 months into this conflict?
Indeed. Well, as the Secretary of State said, that we entered the war because Israel was going to do it, and we better join them. At this point, whatever information the Prime Minister and other Israelis said about how this war would go, certainly they have lost their credibility, and their influence may be considerably less because President Trump, is in a very difficult position at this time. Nonetheless, they may or may not be constrained by the United States. So even as President Trump decides on a deal or a compromise that allows both parties to walk away with much of what they want, the Israelis may not agree, and then we'll have to see what they do.
Yeah, both sides waiting each other out at the moment. Ambassador, thanks so much for your insights this evening.
My pleasure.